Hi, everyone. This is Matthew Wuollet with the Lake Town Podcast.
And this is Rick Seagraves, and we have Alyssa Domagala from American Family Insurance here. Alyssa, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty fantastic. Obviously, you have American Family right on Main Street. You guys just did a nice little update to your building. Looks fantastic. I want to let us know a little bit about what kind of got you into the insurance industry and also what brought you to Annandale, because you're not actually from here.
No, I'm not. So I am from Laverne, Minnesota originally, and that is in the southwest corner of the state, about 7 miles from Iowa, 12 miles from South Dakota. And we moved there because my dad was an American Family Insurance agent for 10 years, and then he went into management. So he was an agent from when I was in first grade until I started high school, and then he went into management. And so then when I went to college, I was going to go for this, broadcast journalism. And we sat down and looked at the opportunities and the income that you would make. And it was not a lot of income, not a lot of opportunities, and a lot of commitment. So we were looking at different opportunities for me. And he had hired an agent in South Dakota that went into management. And he wanted me to come work for him. So I went and got my license in between my insurance license in between my my freshman and sophomore year of college, and worked for him and started the insurance thing when I was 18 and have worked for American Family since then.
I'd say probably a pretty good choice considering if you look at major broadcast, major radio stations, there's like 5 good stations for broadcasting TV in every city, and like, I don't know, 6 or 7 radio stations versus, I don't go as far as saying every city has 5 insurance companies, but most do.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't really I wasn't one that wanted to move around. I like Minnesota. I like smaller towns. So the concept of traveling the country to move to where they had open positions wasn't that interesting to me. So, but I like talking to people. I like educating. I don't want to be a teacher. I'm very grateful for teachers because I could never do it.
That's what I say about daycare providers too. There's no way. Love what they do, but I couldn't do it.
I could not. They're wonderful because I couldn't handle it. So, but I do that's my favorite part of the insurance process is educating people on their coverages and what it can do for them and what insurance does do, what insurance is, and what insurance isn't.
Fair enough. And then what enlightened you to the idea of Annandale?
So it was actually kind of funny. I was an agent in training in New Ulm, Minnesota for a year after I was done with college, and another manager. I couldn't work in Southwest Minnesota because that's where my dad was. So nepotism, I couldn't work for him. And so another manager friend of his said that there's this opening in this town, Annandale. It's about 5,000 people, and they're the Annandale Cardinals. And I thought Laverne was 5,000 people, and they were the Laverne Cardinals. That's great. Perfect. And then the lakes were a big draw for me because my husband, Nathan, is into fishing and hunting, and we grew up in the only county in Minnesota without a lake. So
not a single lake there?
There is not a lake.
Oh, wow.
There is now the lake, which is what used to be the Creamery Pond in Laverne, Minnesota, but it's a pond that they've renamed the lake and put a beach in. And so for the people of Laverne, it's great. But when we go home, it's like, that's a pond, compared to having Pleasant Lake at the end of Main Street.
Yeah.
So that was a nice draw. And I just liked the location of Annandale and the proximity to the Twin Cities and being about 3 hours from my parents. And so I felt like I was getting away, but not really far away.
Nice. And so what year did you come to Annandale?
I started here in 2010.
Okay. So that's so we joined the chamber at the same time. Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. May of 2010 is my anniversary date.
Awesome. And so now you've gotten established, you've got your business here, and so when you started out, was there much of a business that you had, or did you have to build it up quite a bit?
No, I was really fortunate. I took over for an agent. His name was Doug Cantor, and he had been in the agency for 17 years, and he had taken over from his dad. So when I first was offered a position, it was in Litchfield, and I declined that because they had like 5 agents in Litchfield in, I want to say, like 15 years. So it's just really unstable going into that. People don't, why are you the 6th agent here? What's going on? So they just didn't have a lot of stability there. There's actually not an American Family agent in Litchfield anymore because of the instability. So for me, it was taking over a well-run agency. With American Family, we don't own the policies. You hear like, oh, did you buy that insurance agency? American Family owns the policies, and they pay us a commission to service them. So when I'm ready to retire, I have a retirement fund with American Family that a little bit of my commission goes into every month. So then that builds up with my contract. So then when I'm ready to retire, I walk away with that, and then they would hire another agent to take over.
And that way they keep being able to service those customers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not like a lot of the independent agents where they own and then they can sell that.
Okay.
So now you had mentioned Nathan. I believe I've seen somewhere that he actually works with you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did that become a thing, and how's that going?
Well, again, another odd story. So when my dad was in management in Southwest Minnesota, he actually hired Nathan's mom as an agent before we had started dating. So we went to high school together. And so his mom was the agent in the agency that my dad was in. So from like 91 to 2000, my dad was the agent in Laverne. And then there was another agent for a while. And then Marisi, Nathan's mom, was the agent there. So, and now his brother is the agent in Laverne. So there's 2 Domagala agencies for American Family in Minnesota, my brother-in-law and mine. And so Nathan had been a superintendent for a construction company for a year, and he was out of town Monday through Friday. And so when he got done with that build, we were talking about, like, do you want to continue doing this? And he said that he wanted to look at other options. And so with his brother and his mom having a history in it and his history in construction and maintenance and that sort of thing, he's taking on and doing a lot of the commercial insurance, writing farms, plumbers, electricians, those kinds of things. And then just anything commercial, because commercial is another branch of insurance, and it's a lot of information, and it's just a different animal. So I'm managing the personal lines insurance part of things and home, auto, umbrella, life insurance.
Consumer stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's really the bulk of the agency, and I want to be able to take care of those people. And commercial policies, I don't want to say take a lot of time, but I want to commit a lot of time to them. And so it's hard to do that when I'm taking care of my individual families as well. So it just gives some more dedication to that role.
So you've been expanding.
Yeah.
That's good. So now with having so many different types of insurance, and that there is a lot of different kinds, what do you find people are most surprised about when they either are doing claims or just getting insurance?
I think that people don't. That's a really good question. I'm trying to think of how to.
Sorry to put you on the spot. We do that sometimes.
No, it's fine. I'm just trying to think of like what people are surprised by.
Deductibles.
So sometimes it's the deductibles. I've had people come in to write me a check for a deductible before, like, oh, I owe you $500. No, that's not how the deductible works. You deduct it from whatever you would be getting paid. So just the misunderstanding of what insurance, everyone knows you have to have it. I have to have it if I want to buy a car with a loan. I have to have it if I want to have a loan on a house. So they understand that they have to have it, but they don't necessarily understand what it does for them. And now in the world of I can go online and buy a policy to make sure that I'm legal to drive, they go on, fill out, drop down, medium, whatever, and they get to the end and they have a policy, so they're not going to get in trouble until they have a claim. And that's when people learn a lot about the coverages and what they thought they had or what they, that's when they want to learn. But now it's too late because you've already had the claim.
Well, I think that's where it's important for you to be able to dedicate the time to your clients, customers, whatever you refer to them at, as far as making sure they're not overcovered or undercovered as
Right.
far as what their coverages are. Like I know for a while we were undercovered.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had met and sat down and went over it all, and now we are not undercovered. At least I don't think so.
No, you're not.
It's been a minute, but
I just looked at your stuff this morning, so you're not.
well, perfect. Good thing you did because I did not.
That's why I'm there. Yeah.
So that's I think is a good piece of where the importance of having a good agent comes in versus doing the online stuff. Because you could probably find it cheaper online, but what are you getting for service or support? Probably not much.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I think, again, it goes back to this is this thing I have to have. And I had a client that passed away in a car accident back in May. And his wife texted me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was sleeping. I woke up at 6 and called her, and she broke the news to me. And I just think about if she didn't have me to call, to walk her through that, she would have been, having to go online or call into a 1-800 number and maybe sit on hold or something. So I think that do you want to have somebody at maybe the worst moment of your life that you have a relationship with that you want to call? And thankfully they were well covered. So it wasn't as difficult of a conversation for me because I knew that they were going to be taken care of. That's always my worst nightmare, is when, like, I literally talk to people about life insurance because I want to make sure that if something happens to them when they call me with that phone call, that I can go back in my notes, and if they don't have life insurance, I can see when I've offered it to them, why did they decline it, and at least have that peace of mind for myself. But I would always rather be able to provide, a large death benefit check if the worst thing happened unexpectedly. So that's a big part of it too. But just making sure that people are covered, even if it's not in a death, but if it's a, total loss of their vehicle or a total loss of their home, to make sure that I haven't done anything wrong is one of the fears that I have. And that's why I review policies and want to make sure people have coverages. And obviously, yes, if insurance costs more, then I get paid on commission. So yes, but ultimately for me, it's if you have this coverage, then I know I'm never going to have to say, no, you don't have that when you're calling and asking me if you have it,
One, I think life insurance is one of those things where a lot of people have the misconception of what it costs versus what you get. And in our house, anyways, we would rather go with the mindset of rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah, and there's...
Which it's also kind of comical that me and my wife can both look at each other and say, we're worth more dead than alive right now.
Well, and if you look at it as it's honestly, some of the wealthiest people in the world have built their wealth with life insurance. So they're not even using it for themselves. It's an inheritance, and now they're I want to say offspring. That's not what I mean. Their heirs, their children have this wealth that they'll be able to start a business with. And in the world that we're living in right now with so much debt and expense, and the, millennials, is it Gen Z that's coming up right now?
No idea.
And, like college debt
We're
and
all
things.
millennials.
Right. We are. But college debt and things like that, I think about if our generation put money into life insurance and had that for our children to not have to worry about those kinds of things, or to be able to pay off debt with their inheritance, it would I think that would help a lot. But again, that's just one piece of the puzzle. I'm really passionate about it because, like I said, I want to make sure that if something happens, that people have that. And it's something that nobody requires you to buy life insurance. So
I think now's a good time to maybe do a life insurance 101 of, now when you're talking about their heirs taking in their life insurance policy, being able to reinvest or however, that's going to be, I believe, a wholly owned life insurance, not a term.
Well, it depends.
A permanent or term.
Yep. So it's called, there's whole life insurance, term life insurance, and universal life insurance. And this is, wasn't going to get into life insurance a whole lot, but it is Life Insurance Awareness Month, so it's a good topic.
Well, there we go.
But so term insurance is like renting. You're renting an amount of money from your insurance provider. I'm going to rent $500,000 for a period of 10, 20, or 30 years, and you're going to give it to me at this rate based on the age I am right now. And then after 10, 20, or 30 years, whatever your term is, that it can go away, or it can become an annually renewable term, but now you're renewing it annually at your current age. So you're 10, 20, or 30 years older. So it's much more expensive, where whole life insurance is expensive from the get-go because it's permanent. So we pay out 100% of whole life policies. We know we're going to pay it out. So we know we have to take in enough premium to cover that. Term insurance, I believe, I want to say I have the number 20% or 60%, so don't quote me on it, but not a lot of term insurance is actually paid out. So the conversation that I have with people is to have a mix of term and permanent. Universal kind of covers that because Universal is a more flexible life insurance policy, so you can get an amount of insurance for a certain period of time, and then it can drop down later on for more of like a permanent solution. But I like to do a mix of permanent and term insurance so that you always have the risk of death. We're all going to die. We all need some type of insurance and some type of life insurance to have a funeral, for final expenses, to pay off medical bills if you've had a long illness, that kind of thing. And then term insurance is for like the hill of your life where you have, I draw it out, the line is permanent life insurance. You always have this death. The hill is where you have student loans, mortgage, car payments, sports fees for your kids. That's when you have all these expenses, the highest income of your life, where you'd want to have that replaced for your partner. If you are a parent, even if you don't have a parent, if you want to, replace that income for your kids, if you are a single parent, it's an important thing to cover those expenses.
Yeah, it is interesting how many different types of insurance there are.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one that I always think about that I've had for a long time is an umbrella policy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one like nobody ever talks about.
Nope.
Like, hey, you could have this other policy that covers all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that, in my opinion, I mean, that's
it's
huge.
one of the most important products that we offer. So when I do a quote for people, they'll call and ask me for an auto quote or a home quote. And I always bundle auto, home, life, and umbrella, because the umbrella policy is wealth protection, or, I say wealth, but it doesn't matter if you're worth $100,000 or $100 million, you'll have liability. And so what the umbrella does, it's $1 million. The base policy is $1 million of liability above your home, your auto, and yourself. So if somebody were to sue you, then you have that coverage in place, so that it's your, I would say it's American Family's money, but it's your insurance company's money that they're protecting. So they have lawyers that come out and help you with, with court fees and things like that, lawyer expenses, because they want to obviously not pay out the $1 million if they're not liable. The other thing I think about too, though, is if you did injure someone in a car accident and it was an accident and they were tragically injured, they're still alive, but they have to be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. Wouldn't you want to be able to provide something for them? And it wouldn't have to necessarily come out of your personal wealth. It could come out of this policy that you've paid into to protect your liability. For me, that would be important. I would want to make sure that person was taken care of. Another part of the umbrella policy that not a lot of people talk about is uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. So you can add an endorsement to your umbrella policy so that if somebody that's uninsured or underinsured injures you in an accident, that $1 million will cover you as well. So if I go to like quadriplegic, somebody without any insurance injures you, you're now quadriplegic. You had this umbrella policy, you were responsible, you had insurance, but now you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life and they didn't have any insurance. So you can't, my mom always used to say, you can't get blood out of a turnip. If they don't have any money, you're just on your own on disability or public assistance, whatever situation you might be in after this accident, where if you have this uninsured and underinsured motorist endorsement, now that $1 million can come and protect you. It's coverage for you. if somebody doesn't have any insurance or enough insurance. So it does increase the cost of your umbrella, but we're talking about a $200 a year umbrella or a $400 a year umbrella for $1 million of coverage for you and for other people. So yeah.
It's big.
I feel like everybody might be sleeping now. A lot of insurance talk. But
I would say on that note, we can maybe switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who have kids getting their licenses right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a program in place when my oldest Bree got her license where they put a camera in your car and put a little thing in the USB port, not USB, the OBD2 port, and they kind of did a grading scale on how your driving was, et cetera. And I think we just spoke the other day about this. What options are there out there for new drivers to try to lessen the burden of the insane cost of insuring a new driver? What do you guys have available?
So a lot of insurance companies now are going to go into more usage-based insurance tools. So it's going to be apps on your phone. So you've heard, I think Progressive has Snapshot. I don't know if that's Progressive. We have one called Know Your Drive or Miles My Way or Drive My Way. Know Your Drive is our current one, but we're coming out with a couple new ones. So if you don't drive a lot, so many people now are working from home, so they're not driving as much as they used to. Nathan and I are coming into work together, so his one vehicle just sits there. So there's an app that you can download, so it tracks when that vehicle you would, I think you just put it in your phone driving this vehicle. So it tracks that, so you're not going to be charged a lot of miles, annual mileage. And then other ones are tracking your speed, braking events, swerves, I think something. So it tracks it and gives you a score, and then you get a discount based on that score.
So that's the one we were talking about, because he said there's a discount for having it downloaded on your phone, and it's a discount per user that has it downloaded. And my question to you was, are you going to get dinged and your insurance rate go up if somebody like myself happens to be a little bit more aggressive of a driver, and the fact that I drive an insane amount of miles in a year? And your response was?
So I can only speak to American Families. I'm not sure about others, but for us, you get a participation discount. So the minimum amount you can get is a 2% discount as long as you're participating in the program. So you start with a 5% introductory discount, and it can go up to 20%. That's the program we have right now. We're having a new one come out, so I don't have the specifics on that yet.
So it's 2 to 5% per user, up to 4, totaling 20%. Is that how I understood that?
Nope. So it doesn't matter. Like if you're just the one user, the introductory discount is 5%. And if you are the best driver in the whole world, you yourself can get up to a 20% discount, but it's policy wide. So the max discount you can get for the whole policy is 20%. So it doesn't matter. You just get that introductory discount is 5% per driver if you have it on everyone. Per vehicle, it's weird because that's the other thing with discounts that people don't necessarily get. Is some discounts just apply to the liability part of the policy, and some discounts apply to the comprehensive or collision part of a policy. So it's not like if you take the premium and take 20% off of it, it's not necessarily that.
Well, I'm just afraid of the sticker shock of adding a 16-year-old new driver. So I'll go through any hoops there are to jump through. But I think you also have other discounts like, do you still have the good student for having honor roll grades, and what other ones were there?
Yeah, so one that American Family has that not very many people take advantage of, and I think it's disappointing, is we have the young volunteer discount. So if your teen driver does 40 hours, which happens to be the same as National Honor Society, 40 hours of volunteering, they get an additional discount. So if your child isn't maybe the best student, but they volunteer, they could get that volunteer discount. If they're a good student and they volunteer, they can get that discount. So it's kind of like, no, you might not be the best student, but are you willing to give back? And so it's just a sign-off sheet for whoever they're volunteering for, and they get a discount for that. So I think that's kind of cool. But that's, when I had reached out to you, that's honestly one of the things that what's changing so much is the rates that everyone's trying to figure out. How do we save money? How do we save money? Because insurance is changing, especially homeowners insurance is changing a lot right now. Florida has had 2 insurance providers leave. California, I believe, has had 2. The way that certain companies are writing insurance here in Minnesota has changed. So you will see rate increases on your insurance. Almost.
Of course, they never go down.
I have seen them go down in the past. It will not happen for a while. So I would definitely talk to your insurance agent. If you don't have an insurance agent, I know personally, I will meet with people who don't have their policies with me. They're online. I'll go through and say, this is what you should have. I understand if you don't want to switch, but please look into this. We call them PIRs, or personal insurance reviews. And like I said, I will do it whether or not you're my client. And I'll tell you what I would do if I were you, but it's not necessarily like hey, you should go with me. Again, for me, it's about, I want to make sure that if something happened to you, you had enough coverage, or you have the coverage that you think you want. Yeah. So that's a big thing for me. But with homeowners insurance and saving money, one of the things I've been talking to a lot of my clients about is self-insurance. So for years and years, people had coverage on their homes or their vehicles, and you turn in these side mirror. I drove by a pole and my side mirror came off. $500, we'll get it fixed. Well, now it's like, how much is it?
Your average mirror starts at $500 just for the parts.
Right. So, and now even with all the vehicle technology, and if they have the cameras in the mirror and all of that stuff is making vehicle repairs more expensive. So all of those things contribute to the higher cost of just your base auto insurance policy if you have comprehensive and collision. And then home, I'm talking to a lot of people about increasing deductible. So I think that it used to be you had like this maintenance policy for your insurance, and it was like, well, we know we'll get a new roof, when the hail comes or whatever. And now we're talking more about, just like we don't pay for tires on your car. That's car maintenance, keep your car safe and things like that. We need to have people that are taking care of their roofs and not necessarily just waiting for that hailstorm to come. And it seems like in Annandale, we've had a
That's just a Minnesota thing to do.
Yeah.
Just sit around and wait for a new roof.
You're going to get one within 10 years anyway. So.
Well, and not so much anymore. That's the difference. That's what a lot of insurance companies are doing, is changing from replacement cost on roofs that are 10 years older or older to actual cash value only. So that's going to be a way you can have the endorsement to add replacement coverage back on, but you're going to pay for it. So a lot of the policies are changing from this really comprehensive policy, like your gravestones are covered if you're responsible for a family member's gravestones, and that old antenna you have on your roof, that's covered. Now we're moving more toward like an a la carte policy. So you don't want coverage for your gravestones or your antenna, great, you don't have to pay for them, but you're not automatically going to get coverage for the garden shed in the backyard. You have to add that if you want it covered. So it's more of that a la carte, but it's going to be more about sitting down and going over those things and saying, I want coverage for this, instead of just assuming, well, I have insurance, so I'm covered for everything. So that is when you're shopping for insurance online, if they're asking you a lot of questions about your home and, do you have any outbuildings or any other structures? It's because you may be choosing to cover those or not cover them. So as you are changing insurance, especially right now over the next couple of years, if you're changing from one insurance provider to another, right now, like Rick, your grandfather didn't. The policy you have is the total package. It has everything. But if you left and came back, I wouldn't be able to offer you that policy anymore. So that's where, when people are switching, yeah, you might get this like, I'm saving $1,000 on my insurance, but are you getting the same amount of coverages? Yes, there's a lot of coverages in there that you probably don't need, but it's also that comprehensive policy that maybe now a different company doesn't have that option for new clients anymore. I know that that's the case for us. We have a new policy starting on September 1st. That's great because it's a lot more customizable, but you have to choose the things that you want and you don't want. So if you're trying to shop for insurance in 15 minutes or less, you're probably not going to get all of the coverages that you think that you have or that you maybe want.
Fair enough. Another gear change based upon a phone call I got yesterday. Do you do renter's insurance, and how does that work? And if you do, you're probably going to be getting a call or a text message from my kid, because she was asking me. I was like, I have no idea. I've never had renter's insurance. I've always owned.
Yeah, so you should absolutely have renter's insurance. So renter's insurance you have for your personal property and your personal liability. So where your personal liability, if you are a young lady and you're straightening your hair and you leave your straightener on and something happens and causes a fire for that apartment structure, your liability will cover that for your insurance or for your renter's insurance. So if you're found to be at fault, you left a candle burning and the entire apartment building burned down. That's where your personal liability could come in and help with those expenses. And that's why I talk about that, because that's like large scale loss that you'd be like detrimental to your, personal or for your future income or I want to say wealth, but I just think that sounds like a lot. But then most renters insurance policies come with like $20,000 of coverage for personal property. So if there was a total loss to that apartment building or single family dwelling that you're renting out, then you would have coverage for your clothing and personal property to be replaced.
Fair enough. So with all these things being said, obviously you have a pretty large wealth of knowledge in the insurance industry, which you should, because you grew up in it. But if somebody were to want to get a hold of you, what's the best avenue to do so, and try to set something up with you? Because we are going to have to cut this a little bit here. We've been going on for a while. If anybody
I could talk forever.
If anybody is still awake, thank you. Comment, say, hey, I watched the whole thing. That'd be fantastic.
Right.
But where could they find you?
Yeah, so we're on Main Street in Annandale. I think that the best way to contact us is by phone, 320-274-5900. By phone or text. You can text us at that number. I know it's a landline, but we do accept text there. And so I will respond to text as soon as I get them, as soon as I notice it, whether or not I'm in the office. So that's why I really like the texting option. Or you can email us at domagalaagency@amfam.com.
Okay. You guys have social media presence also.
We
Someone
do.
to reach out there.
We do. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. What is it called now?
X.
We're on X.
Twitter switch names.
Yeah.
What the F?
So it's not the little birdie on your phone anymore.
That just
it's a big
goes to
X.
show how much I go on Twitter.
It's an X.
Okay.
It's just x.com.
Okay. That's weird.
And what is your handle on all of those?
It's different on all of them, but Domagala Agency. If you search for that, it'll be me, because my brother-in-law has his name.
Well,
his
if
first
you
name.
if you text me the different handles, I'll try to incorporate them
Okay.
into the body of the Facebook post I'm going to do, as well as all the other avenues that we post in, because there's a ton of them. Of which, good segue, if you know anybody who wants to be on our show or have an idea of somebody who can come on, certainly email us at laketownpodcast@gmail.com or reach out on Facebook. I think those are the two easiest ways to get a hold of us. That being said, Matthew, you have anything?
I don't. I think we all learned something.
I think we lulled a few people to sleep, but brought them back at the end.
Well, I don't know if he needs to-
it's not the most exciting topic, but it's a very important topic.
Agree. You could lull some people to sleep and then sell them some insurance right at the same time.
I don't know. I get really excited about insurance.
Well, it's a good thing it's you getting excited doing it.
But I do fall asleep to podcasts a lot, so maybe this is a good one.
All right, fair enough. You need to take a nap, watch your own podcast.
Yeah.
Some people have sound machines. We have an insurance podcast.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Just kidding. No, I think it was good. I think that there's a lot of stuff that like you said, people buy insurance, they get homeowners insurance, they just think, oh, I'm covered. They get car insurance, they just think, I'm covered. But like you said, if you just pop online, print out a policy, you might not be getting what you think, and
Right.
that's where talking to an agent is definitely important. So
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest point that I think people could get out of this, is that there's so much that I think unless you're in the business, you're not going to have an idea what you're getting. So.
Right.
Well, that being said, if anybody has questions for insurance, you can either reach out to Alyssa or you can reach out to your current insurance provider and just kind of run it by them and say, hey, am I covered correctly? And they should be able to say yes or no pretty quickly.
And we're really fortunate in Annandale, because I know the other insurance providers in town, and we get along really well and we joke around. And I I am fortunate to have really great competitors that I know if somebody leaves me for one of the other companies in town, I know they're going to be taken care of. So I'm very happy to be in that position because that's not how it always is.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Alyssa, thank you for coming in. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
rest of your day.
Thanks for having me.